back to another video. My name is Lance and I thank you so much for tuning in today. Today I'm talking about HOLGA camera. Went out and did a shoot with this about last week, and it's an interesting camera. It's all plastic, other than the metal hinges here that hold the back on. Everything else in this is plastic, maybe a couple of metal springs, but the lens is plastic, and it just shoots some really unique photos with 120 format film. So as you can see, it's taped up a little bit, and the reason for that, for using masking tape on it, is that you want to tape up all the cracks, all the openings that you can, because light will end up leaking through those because it doesn't have any sort of sill or anything in here, and then you'll get light leaking in, and then it'll make the photos even worse than how they usually turn out. So, what does medium format film look like? Looks like this. A lot larger than 35 millimeter. This is 120 format film. It's color film I sent off, I had it developed. And so now we are going to look at some of the photos that got developed out of that roll. It only does 12 photos, by the way. So you get kind of 12 chances to get at least maybe one good shot. So this first one, you can see there's a lot of shadow. I'm not sure what happened there. Again, the camera's all plastic, so I mean, this is what's gonna happen sometimes. But you know, we could probably play around with the contrast or even see what auto does. Nothing good. The next one actually looks half decent. I mean, it's got good exposure according to the histogram. Let's see if we can bring out, I'm gonna kind of take out some of the highlights to keep that detail, maybe bring up the shadows, maybe a little more contrast, maybe drop the exposure a little bit. I mean, that's not too bad. I mean, this is what you're expecting to get out of a HOLGA, is kind of this vignetting, and it's got some hazing, and oh yeah, we can use dehaze on that, and look at that. Some clarity. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, I was not expecting the photo to actually turn out this well. I was shooting ISO 400 film, and it was daytime, so I wasn't really sure if all these photos are just gonna be totally blown out or not. The HOLGA camera, it shoots at a shutter speed of around 1/100th of a second, and the f-stop on it is somewhere between f8 and f13. There's a couple of settings on there, but I was really skeptical that any of these would turn out. This is not half bad, actually, for a plastic camera, mind you. This next one, the highlights really aren't that blown out, and that's the nice thing about ISO 400 film, is that it's very forgiving with the highlights. They're less likely to be blown out than with like a digital camera. So if I were to bring the exposure down a little bit, maybe drop the highlights, bring the whites back in, maybe boost the shadows a little bit, get a little more contrast, use the dehaze on it, and just a little bit there. So yeah, I mean, it retained the clouds, retained some detail in the building itself, which was really great. I shot that one because I wanted to see how well it would do with that contrast of having some darker areas and then, you know, those highlights of the sky. That's not too bad. This one, I know what happened here. I screwed up. And so with the HOLGA camera, let me show you. So on the back of the camera has this little filter, and what that does is, as you're winding the film up, you'll see a number on the back of the film, and it'll tell you what picture you're on, whether it's like, you know, photo 1, 2, 3, or 4. So as you're winding the film up, you know where you're at, and you're not having to count how many clicks or how far to wind, because it does not stop winding. It can, you know, a lot of, you know, more advanced cameras that may shoot film will actually stop at a certain point, or it'll have a wind like thumb knob on there that will wind it just enough to be that one frame. So what happened here was I didn't wind it over far enough and ended up doing kind of this weird double exposure thing. And the shutter button kind of has some issues. See what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't click all the way, so it's really difficult to so it's got some mechanical problems, and so I was having some trouble also just getting it to fire a photo. So that's why this photo is just even worse than the other ones. At least that's my excuse. So again, this one, I think on this one, I had some polarizing sunglasses, and I was like, well, the pictures are already gonna be bad. Why don't I try to use the sunglasses as a filter and see what happens? That's why we're getting some extra like vignetting and stuff here that makes it look really bad. That was maybe not the best idea in the world, but you know, it's worth a try. Bring up the saturation, maybe? Yeah. I mean, that's kind of okay. Well, let me adjust the white balance a little bit. Maybe, yeah. So, I mean, it was able to retain some color in the sky, and the clouds have some details. The buildings, you can kind of see some good details there. You're getting kind of that double exposure and kind of some more vignetting, partially my fault. This one, let's see what we can get out of this. And just looking at the histogram, I mean, the exposure's not bad on this. I mean, that's pretty, I mean, it's really high in the highlights here, but overall, like, the blacks are not spiking. It doesn't look like there's anything in the far highlights unless I move that over, but that's really exposed pretty well. And that's the great thing about film, is that for a lot of this stuff, especially ISO 400, like I said, it will retain a lot of that. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, obviously it's not the prettiest picture in the world, but it definitely has some unique character, for sure. I mean, obviously there's no detail in any of this, but, you know, again, just trying to see if I can get some details here in the trees. I really didn't mess with like composition a whole lot. I was more just taking certain photos to later just kind of test out some of this stuff. I don't use the dehaze option a lot with digital photos, but with film, I'm noticing it's probably needed, just to kind of bring out some of those details. So I mean, it's got some cool colors, pretty vibrant colors if I push them just a little bit. I'm just playing around. I'm not really trying to color grade these or fix the exposure. I'm really just kind of pushing the settings around, trying to see what kind of details I'm able to get out of these photos. It's not really very good, obviously. But like with this one, I'm trying to see, can I get any of the sky while retaining some of the mids? Not really. But this is kind of cool because the part of this fencing here is blurred out, and it's really, I was trying to focus on the sign on the building, And so that kind of worked. But as you can see, like there's this weird warping with the film. As it's rolling through the camera, it doesn't stay very steady in there. And so there's some warping that happens with the HOLGA. Again, it's just kind of unique character that it gets. Yeah, so really out of all of these, I think this one turned out pretty good as far as the colors and everything that it was able to capture, and some of the details. And I think this one as well. I think this is probably my favorite, just because it's really capturing a lot of good detail. The sky is really blue. The colors in the trees are starting to pop out. And so if I actually color grade this one, or mess with the settings and stuff and develop this one correctly, I mean, I think it's going to turn out pretty cool for, again, an all plastic camera. But that's it. That's all I wanted to show you today, is just the results of shooting the HOLGA out in a bright sunny day. ISO 400 film, all plastic camera, and I mean, it takes some pretty cool photos. So it's one of those that you can just kind of store in your car, and if you see a cool photo, you can take it, and then you only got 12 shots. So you have to choose wisely with those 12 shots, because film can be kind of expensive, especially 120 format film. But that's it. If you have any questions, if I can help you with anything, if you want to see more videos like this, let me know. Just, leave me a comment below, or if you want to find me on Instagram, it's Patience and Hustle. I'd be glad to follow you back. Just send me a message there as well if you have any questions. Until next time, have an amazing week.